Well, we're continuing day 29 and continue falling in love with Israel, even though when you see the video, it's gonna be already Tu B'Av. I didn't get a chance to finish all 40 videos like I wanted before, but we'll have it ready for next year for anybody who wants to take the challenge. But the goal is focused on loving the Holy Land, and because Tisha B'Av happened, and now we have to make sure we change. What has changed with me? That now I want to be more in Israel. That now I want to speak more about the land of Israel. That now I'm going to be more focused on my plan to move to Israel and all that. Okay, so we're continuing. So I skipped a little bit within the book because a lot of things were Kabbalistic and I don't understand it really. I'm not on the level, but here comes a bit on chapter 12 from Rabbi Natan Shapira from Tuv Haaretz, and he explains like that. So he said, actually, before I want to mention that, if I remember correctly, in Ketuvot 111 Amud Aleph, I think, Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, or Bet, but it's Kuf Yud Aleph, he says, the Gemara says that anybody who walks 4 Amos in Eretz Israel is guaranteed to have Olam Haba. So he explains how walking in the land of Israel means understanding that while you walk in Israel, you understand you're in a different dimension, you're in different ruach, there's a different spirit, the air is different, and that Eretz Israel correspond to the aspect of Rachel and Leah, which is Kabbalistic concept, but basically correspond to the Malchus, the kingdom of Hashem, that you're walking in a place that is very spatial. You know, it's like you go to a mikveh. When you go in the mikveh, the water by itself, even if you have no intention at all, okay, it's going to clean you to some degree. But my Rebbe explained, Rabbi Simcha Lev Yosef Gad Ezra Ben Shenachana should have for Shlema and Bigezut and Stark, say that really what purifies you is the intention that you have of what the water does to you. Right. See, if you, our imagination creates a certain level of reality. So when you go into the water and you imagine that this water is cleansing you, your nefesh, ruach, neshama, your guf, and it's you're going like in a womb, and then you're being reborn. So all this is every kavanos that we have, as we learn from the Arizal. It brings a new reality. Just like if I'm thinking Shivisi Hashem Tamid now, that Hashem is in front of me, so Hashem comes more and more, is more and more present in front of me, or to the point where if I'm on the level, I can even feel His presence. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. When we walk in Israel, understand that being in Israel, it connects me directly to the source of all. All the lands, the center of all of creation, and on top of that, he was explaining that the entire land of Israel is like an altar, it's like a mizbeach. And we know the Mizbeach has 4 corners, and it has to do with Arba Kanfos Haaretz, that will come from all corners of the world and go into Eretz Israel. That Eretz Israel is like that place with, these 4 main cities, the 4 holy cities, Yerushalayim, Tzfat, Hebron, and Tiberias, and there is there's a lot of 4 elements. And the idea is that when you go in Israel, it's like you are you're on the altar. And the altar, the Mizbeach, is a place of elevation, is a place of atonement. He says that someone is buried in Israel. It's like he's buried under the altar, which is where Adam Arishon came from, and was formed. And that tells you that you're back to the root. So just understanding that being in Israel, it's like something very, very elevating just by being there, as we have seen so many times. So this being said, we're continuing now, and he says like that. There are 4 levels that will be discussed. Number 1, the highest level of holiness of those that dwell in Eretz Israel. Then number 2, the remainder of those dwelling in the land. Then number 3, the higher level of those that live outside the land. And then the remainder of those that reside outside the land. So he says like that. The first category are those who can never really be justly described as dying, except for at the hands of God. Upon those, the term used for their passing is gevia, or expiration. They could be compared to a person lying in his bed, imprisoned in his house without neither exiting or entering. So too, even their flesh of the people of the highest caliber shall remain secure, as in the case of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, who remained perfectly intact for a long time without burial, as it says Gemara Baba Metzia 84b. This was also the case as well for Achai ben Yoshia, who didn't experience decomposition, as well as a few people in each generation who have incorporated in themselves the stature of the patriarchs and matriarchs. This was accomplished by their sanctifying themselves in those areas that are permitted, even on the level of thought. Those type of people don't really die. So it's a high level to do things, to control one's goodness, and only use what and prevent oneself from doing even something that's permitted in order to grow closer to God. We are controlling our desires as a show of love. We do the things I would do if I was not married. I would do certain things that because I'm not married, I enjoy more doing for myself. But now that I'm married, I'm reducing my self-care or whatever it is, because I want to spend more time with my spouse, and I'm ready to give up certain things, certain pleasures, because I want to invest more on my love for my wife. And so that's the same thing with Hashem. So those are people are they stay alive, and even when they die, they're still alive, so to speak. They're always connected. It's a very powerful level of spiritual aliveness. Number 2, second to that level are those holy masters who pass away outside the land, such as our father Yaakov. That is why he commanded his son to bury him immediately in Eretz Israel, for he knew that there would be no hindrance, for the external forces had no protest to him. Similarly was the level of Rebbe. Upon his passing, he held up his 10 fingers and proclaimed that he had derived no pleasure for all of his material possessions. A level akin to those was that of Moshe Rabbeinu, for whom God himself took care of his burial. Again, with Aaron and Miriam, they all enjoyed a similar of sorts due to their holiness. They all were spared to the decay in the earth of their physical bodies, for they had escaped the sin of Adam, totally purifying themselves from any remnant of it. They became transformed into a chariot for the heavens. Thus their bodies exist and they didn't die. Rather, they are called slumbers of the earth. That's pretty incredible. So technically their body is, so to speak, still alive. There was never any death. They elevated the body so much that there was no need for decomposition or destruction of their body. So they fixed the sin of Adam HaRishon that was in them. Each one of us has to fix the sin of Adam HaRishon. We all are part of it, and we all have in us, like we have multiple people. I have an Adam, I have a Chava, I have an Amalek, I have a Pharaoh, I have a Moshe Rabbeinu, I have Jewish people, I have the non-Jewish people. Everything exists in me. I'm an entire world, Olam Katan. I'm a microcosm of the entire world. And therefore, I need to, that's why I learned the Chumash. I'm learning about me, really, right? And therefore, when I learn about myself, then as I fix myself, I'm fixing the world. So they were able to fix the Chet of Adam Rishon in them, and therefore the body is free of any negativity and can be elevated on the level of the soul. So they never died, really. The third level is that of the rest of those that died in Eretz Israel. They have no accountability to the external forces, despite their partaking in the pleasures of the world. For their consumption was not provided for by them, the external forces. For Eretz Israel derives its nourishment and sustenance from the hand of God. Therefore, when they come and accuse them of consuming from their sources, they will be able to answer that they didn't derive benefit from them. Nonetheless, they will need to have their bodies decompose, for they did not remove themselves completely from the sin of Adam. Part of fixing the sin of Adam HaRishon is moving towards Israel. Fascinating. Therefore, they must be subjected to be the punishment of "for you are earth." Upon death, their body decay. It's like if you say outside, it's like the Eretz Israel is the soul, and outside the Eretz Israel is the land. So, if you want your body to not decompose, then you have to go, whole body and soul in and die in the land of Eretz Israel. Then it's as if you're only in the soul and you're not attached to any body type of impurities. Upon death, their bodies decay, yet their souls are sanctified. That is the reason why they're impure, and they transfer impurity through contact and transportation, which all stem from the first shell, the klipa, resulting from Adam. This leaves room for a rectification for those that live abroad, so to entirely avoid being ruled by the forces of impurity. So the fact that there's a righteous person that dies outside the land of Israel is actually good for those. That's why certain tzaddikim decide to come back in galus for the sake of others. Now we can understand better the decision of certain people who could have gone to Eretz Israel or were in Israel and decide to leave Eretz Israel and allow themselves to be buried chutz laaretz. For we have found many thousands of tzaddikim that died abroad, yet they had a rectification, for they had absolved themselves from partaking in worldly pleasures their whole lives. For nourishment and physical pleasures abroad are controlled by the external forces. So these tzaddikim avoided by this only deriving benefit from mitzvot, such as official meals in celebration of a wedding or circumcision on Shabbos and Yom Tov. For in those circumstances, the forces of impurity have no grasp, for they are all protected by the feminine force of the great depths, for all Shabbat food is derived only from holiness. So even if they are abroad, the forces of spiritual impurity have no control over them, for they will be able to say that they derive no benefit from them, the purely physical pleasures, even in a corporal sense. Only enough to support the body's function in enabling the soul to deal in Torah. So there's no excess, there's nothing extra, there's no fat, so to speak. It's nothing that you don't need, and it's connected to Torah and Avodas Hashem, so it's all elevated automatically. This is as it's stated, that tzaddik eats to satisfy his soul, thus attaining a rectification despite their death outside of Eretz Israel. Very powerful. And then finally, the fourth level applies to those who indulge in delicacies of the material world. So if I eat more than I need to, if I take, I relax too much, I spend too much time at the gym, too much time watching stuff, it's okay to do self-care, it's okay to exercise, it's okay to relax. But if we do it too much and we go beyond what's necessary for the body, right, we have to get there. We don't do all at once. Everybody grew up a certain way. Someone who is rich is used to a lot of pleasures more than others, and therefore for him, in a way, it's a bigger avodah. He has to work more on divulging oneself, depriving himself little by little from all those good things, extras. Therefore, de facto, they were under the influence of evil influence. So that's the level of Precious and Hasidus Messias Hashem speaks about, Nikius, Tahara. So Precious, right? So all that is to get to that point. Even though they have to their credit Torah and good deeds, the spirit of evil affects them. Therefore, upon their death, his spirit doesn't leave them right away and is only removed when their physical bodies return to earth. Being that this spirit resides in them at the time of their passing, even if the body was then brought to be buried in Eretz Israel, it won't be rectified. But if a person were to live the vast majority of his life abroad, yet towards the end of the end he came alive to Eretz Israel, he, upon arrival to Eretz Israel, is purged of this negative spirit. That's very powerful. Again, I reread that. If a person were to live the vast majority of his life abroad, yet, listen to that, this is for you, my friends. Towards the end, he came alive to Eretz Israel. He, upon arrival to Eretz Israel, is purged of this negative spirit. It's mamash a tremendous gift. Yet, if he were to die abroad, then his pure neshama leaves him, leaving him with only that negative force. That force defiles his body, and his body has to decompose. It's a painful process. That is a secret of the drop of poison that the angel of death uses on the body to cause death. That is why a corpse is considered the most powerful source of impurity. For through the defilement attachment to that evil spirit, the holy neshama is forced to leave. Therefore, even if he is buried in Eretz Israel, he doesn't attain rectification, for his soul left his body while abroad. Upon those it is written, and they shall come and defile my land. So, very important to try to die in Eretz Israel if we can, and to live but ideally to really live there, because then it's a tremendous merit for your neshama and body. May we all be able to merit to move there before our death, and to stay connected to the pure and holy land, God willing.